Hello and welcome to Knowledge by Nature. In today's video, I have an amazing resource from Singapore Math that I think whether you are a public school parent or a homeschool parent, that you are going to probably want to look into this resource. Now, before we get completely started, I do want to let you know that Singapore Math did send this book to me at no cost to me for my honest review. And I can let you know that I have honestly purchased 5 years of Singapore Math because I believe in the method. And this is an amazing resource. It really is. So welcome or welcome back. If this is your first time here, I am a homeschool mom to a 4th grader. We love all things books, homeschool, and sharing our journey with you. And if that is something that you're interested in, I would love if you consider hitting that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. So yes, this is a new release from Singapore Math. We didn't learn math this way, and this is a guide for the parent. This is not a student book. This is not a textbook. This is a book to help parents, because I honestly think a lot of us are probably sitting in that seat of we didn't learn math this way. One of the huge components for us choosing Singapore Math all of these years is because of the method that Singapore Math teaches. No, it is not how I learned it. Honestly, I've learned a lot better ways to do math since I've been teaching my daughter to do math using Singapore Math. And for those that may be in the public school that they don't have the teacher's guide to be able to dive into to understand a lot of this, this is fantastic. And even as a homeschool mom that uses Singapore Math, I found some tidbits in here that I didn't necessarily see or have noticed in Singapore Math. So to start us off with that, if you use Singapore, Eureka, or Engage NY, a lot of these concepts are going to be very, very familiar. But like I said, I still got a few little tidbits out of this that I find really, really helpful, and I'm going to be utilizing them more. Now, we are right here at the end of this K through 5. We're finishing up 4th grade this year. But I do wish this would have been available at the beginning, and I know many parents personally that I'm going to suggest that they buy this because it's chock full of information. So let's just go ahead and jump in here. We have the contents, and you can see that everything's color-coded. That's something with Dimensions Math. I love this little color-coded section. You can just quickly find. So if I was looking for story problems, I could find the dark blue color and go there rather quickly, or of course, the page numbers. But anyways, you can see all of the things that they've put into this book. It's not a giant book, but let me tell you, it's got some good stuff in here. So for our table of contents, we're looking at number bonds, manipulatives, basic facts, mental math strategies for all of the categories here, unit form, algorithm, again, categories here, story problems, 2 interpretations of division, fractions, and then we go to the glossary. Now, the glossary, I really just want to jump straight to that because check this out. In the glossary, they not only give us the definitions of the bolded letters within the text, they also give us a visual of it, which I absolutely love. If you're a visual learner, you can quickly see what they are talking about. Whether it is area or a bundle or a base 10 blocks, you have this little image here, which I greatly appreciate as a visual learner, and I think others will also. It's a new book, so it doesn't want to churn for me very well. But it's just really, really nice. So this is the glossary in the back, and I just wanted to, it's one of my favorite things, is the visual to go with the glossary. Now that I've jumped us back to the table of contents, let's go ahead and look at the introduction because I think it is nice to kind of get a good introduction to this book and what we're going to see. It gives us a welcome here, kind of talking about how this kind of came to development and how to use this. And so it talks about the 2 different main sections of math topics and the illustrated glossary, which I already showcased. And then we also come over here to the different sections. So we have asides, which are different topics within this book. We have WTM, which I absolutely love. It's an acronym for What the Math, and I'm probably going to use that a lot because it kind of tickles me and I like it. Because sometimes I'm doing a lesson and I do think, what the math? We have notes from the dream team, which are really, really lovely. Notes from a confused parent, which actually happens to come from the illustrator of this book. Things that she's not a mathematician. She didn't write the book. She's just illustrating it. And so it's questions and things that have come up to her as just a mother of math students. Quiz yourself sections. Honestly, this is really, really helpful. If you're not understanding it yourself and you're not comprehending it, it's really difficult to teach it. And so by quizzing yourself and getting a full grasp on it is really helpful. So if you are struggling with teaching your student a section, use this quiz yourself. Help your learner. I found these highly valuable. They have some really, really good insight into this section in ways that you could specifically help your student, which I'm going to show you a few of them. And then we have these little progression badges. So it tells you, like in a little circle, what grade level you may be experiencing that specific topic. So really, really helpful asides that are part of this book. Talks about the team, which we have the first one, Peggy Golden. She started out as a Montessori kindergartner, went all the way up to the college level, where she has contributed to Dimensions Math, Engage NY, and Eureka Math, which teach very, very similar concepts. Then we have Trisha here that says that she did math through preschool in 8th grade and that she actually traveled to Singapore to be trained with the Singapore math methods. And I think that's amazing. And she also contributed to the Engage NY, Dimensions Math, and Math Sprints. And then we have our little illustrator here, which is super cute. You can see right here, we got a lot of diversity going on there, and it's just nice little illustrations. Now, as a parent, we may not appreciate these illustrations as much as a student would. This isn't for the students, it's for us. But nonetheless, I like the visuals because that's kind of me. I am a visual learner. So the very, very first section that we jump into is number bonds. Number bonds is a huge thing within math these days, and it was something that has been taught from the very, very beginning with us with Singapore Math. So you can see right here, we have this K through 1 right there that lets us know that in these grade levels, this is probably what you're going to be seeing. This is what's going to be introduced to the student, and it gives you different verbiage to make sure that you are using them correctly. So we have a whole, which is split into a part, and here you can see a whole, which is split into even more parts. And then we have these fact families where it is 5 equals 2 plus 3, 5 equals 3 plus 2, 5 minus 2 equals 3, and 5 minus 3 equals 2. So if they can get that relationship between addition and subtraction, your student is going to by far excel with getting those foundational skills right there. It continues to show how we can solve down some problems using this. Again, this is for K through 1. 1 through 2, right here we're seeing that the model becomes a little bit more sophisticated, right? We're trying to figure out what the whole is, and yet we know that we have the parts. As we start to keep going, we're going to maybe decompose these numbers a little bit more, which is in essence a number bond in itself right over here. And you can see we have our first what the math, and it is, let's get a close up here. So pointing over here, we see that where what the math is probably talking for grades 2 to 3. So it says number bonds can also be used to introduce multiplication as repeated addition. So it is showing you how to properly use a number bond for multiplication. We would use 7, 7, and 7 as a representation of multiplication, not 3 times 7, because 7, 3, and 7 would actually be showing us a whole of 10, right? Not 21. So you want to make sure that you're using your number bonds correctly and that your little part circles do in fact equal your large whole circle. Moving over into how number bonds are introduced. So you don't just like throw these number bonds at them. You are more than likely in those little grades, you're going to start with physical circles on the floor. And you would either, if you're homeschooling, you don't have 21 students to put in a circle, but you know what? You use Legos or you use little manipulatives, which they're going to be showing you. But take this information and use it for how you could use it. And it also points out some things for the parent/teacher on how we need to make sure that we do these introductions. And it says right here that it's a really big thing to not ignore the pictures and the manipulatives before going to the dots. So here you can see that we actually represented the 3 puppies and the 2 puppies with dots. Before you put those dots in, make sure that you've done the pictures and the manipulatives. And again, I'll show you the section on manipulatives. That's another huge thing, is you want that hands-on manipulative that they can manipulate and move and see the math come to life. And I think that is one of the biggest perks for developing a really, really strong math student. And so then over here, it does say eventually we're going to replace dots with numerals. But again, don't skip this part. Show the actual manipulative, show the actual puppies first, and then move over. Then we move on to manipulatives, which I love that this is number 2. I actually probably would have put it at number 1 because I would want to know about manipulatives first, but here we go. This is how you are going to show physically the math problem in so many cases. And some of us may be, familiar with like fraction circles, and then other things may not be as familiar, which is this Rekenrix. I was like, what? I did a what the math thing. And so I jumped over to my glossary and I looked that up. And so you saw that was bolded. So I come back here to the glossary, I look up that word, and you can see I have a little image of it right here, and I have a definition. Now, I will learn in a little bit that this is not an abacus, because I was like, oh, it's an abacus, but it's not actually an abacus. It's different, and it actually talks about that on page 22. But I love that I get a definition and an image of what this is, because it's very helpful, and I liked it a lot. So again, manipulatives are really, really valuable and things that you are going to want to use when you are helping your student. So there are all sorts of different manipulatives that they're talking about. We have the linking cubes. There are different types of linking cubes, but here is one way that you would use those. We have other commonly used manipulatives: dot cards, place value blocks, place value disc, all of these things. And it said that the ones with the little asterisks are one that we might be less familiar with. So it all depends on how much you've been in the math world. Now, as far as using manipulatives, when you're in pre-K through 1, you're going to use a lot of these 5 frames and 5 group cards. So you have the 5 frames, which is actually just 5 little blocks along 1 strip of paper. And then we have 5 groups where, you have, this is 5. Here we can quiz ourselves, and this is where you can quickly see the advantages of using these dot cards. So here it's asking us, how many do you see? How many do you count? Well, right here we can immediately see that there are 8 because it's a 5 and a 3, 8, where here you almost had to count them up. So this is really, really helpful and something that you continue to use throughout your grade levels, but you're really, really helping this section right here. As we go K through 1 over here, you're starting to see that we're jumping up to a 10 frame with 10 group cards. And then we also have it over here where we have it in this place value charts. And it says that you always want to do them in rows of 5 to assist with this. You're just continuing to build upon everything that you learned. Another manipulative that you're going to use K through 5 is place value cards. And so it hide the 0 cards, what it might be called. So if we were making 371, we would use 3 different cards. Then card 300, the card 70, and the card 1. And that way your student can see that, in fact, this number is made up of 3 hundreds, 7 tens, and 1 1. And this is, again, really something that is used a lot. And we have more references where this is telling me that this, in fact, is not an abacus. It is something else. And again, you can refer to the glossary for the subsidized, which is really, you can look at something without having to count it, which is why these manipulatives are used. You can look at this really quickly and know there's 5 dots there. I don't have to count them. I can look really quickly and see that there are 10 there. I don't have to count them. And that is what this is used for. We have place value blocks and disc. They continue to talk about the different ways that it's used in the place value disc. A chip model, which was actually a little bit new for me, and I'm going to be talking about that a little bit more as we go. But the main thing to know is that all of these manipulatives are for every grade. So you can see pattern blocks, pre-K through K. You're going to want some of these manipulatives. All right, the next section is basic math facts, and this talks about how we kind of went from a point of we only did math facts to then we learned how to understand it conceptually, and now we're kind of like bringing it around to a mixture of the both. And so it talks about how important it is to know your math facts and know that really you're not learning this many. They put it into different colors so that, you know, once you learn the blues, you've really learned the reds also, once you get a good hold on that math fact family thing. Again, we have another note from the Dream Team where it's talking about the 3 numbers shown in this number bond are considered to be a fact family. So all of these are working together with addition and subtraction to be able to get a lot of math facts with just the knowledge of those 3 numbers. It talks about how we use the basic facts for multiplication and division. More WTMs here on with 0, and then here is a help your learner, which I thought was really, really cool. So this specific help your learner is talking about how by 3rd grade, the end of 3rd grade, you need to be looking at your student to know the facts for multiplication and division, and it helps. And it tells you how to practice those. So first, practice doubling. And then once your learner knows the 2s, proceed to the tables of 5s and 10s. And then after they know this, then they suggest doing your 3s, your 4s, and then move on to 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, a quick note from me, nothing in this book is telling you this, but for 6, 7, 8, 9, we use times tables. That was amazing for getting those facts down with 6, 7, 8, and 9. So if you have a struggling student with those 6, 7, 8, 9s, definitely look into times tables. But continuing with this book here, it does tell you to also don't try to do so many at once. So only work on like one thing exclusively. For like 7 times 8, you're going to say 7 times 8, 8 times 7, 56 divided by 7, and 56 divided by 8. You're going to work on that fact family only. So don't worry about keep going on to the another one. Get them to get the first one down because that really gives them 4 and then move on. And so I really, really appreciated this right here. And it says right here, of all the things you do at home, helping master basic math facts for the 4 operations may have the most impact on your learner in math class. So that's a pretty big statement there. And honestly, if you can get those facts down, math does go so much quicker for them. They don't have to remember everything if they've just got it down. Moving on to mental math strategies. Mental math is taught early on, okay? It is something that is very, very powerful for getting math done quickly. And so no matter what operation you are doing, mental math is very, very helpful. Again, you want to start with manipulatives and models. And then record on paper and pencil. And so you don't just expect them to be able to do mental math. And so there are different strategies for doing mental math. And one of the strategies is for addition, where you're going to make a 10. And so it shows you how to make a 10 and then make the next 10 and then make the greater unit. And so it goes through for, 4 through 5. It shows you different ways of making that next one. And so we'll just continue to kind of flip through this rather quickly. And so then it goes to showing you strategies for subtraction. All right, we see where we have another thing with compensation for grades 2 to 3, more quiz yourselves. Here we're using mental math strategies for multiplication. We're also going to have mental strategies for division. So everything has like it broken down a little bit further. It talks about unit form where we have things that are broken down like the standard form, which is the number. We have the word form, which is the number wrote out. We have expanded form, which is 70 plus 3. And then we have unit form, which is broken out into the 7 tens and 3 ones. Again, it's really important that the student understands what that number means. Just like with the word cat, there are 3 different letters that make up that one word. Well, right here, we have 7 tens and 3 ones that make up that one number. Here it is breaking it out into these place value charts. So 73, we're putting it in the 7 under the 10 section, the 1s under the 1 section, and you can see how this just breaks out and makes it really, really nice. And on any of these sections, you really just want to make sure that you're using manipulatives, right? Use manipulatives for anything that isn't making sense. So here, if I go back to the division section, you see that there's a lot here, and it seems like a lot, but just know right here it tells us these strategies take time and patience to learn. So whether it be for you or your student, know that there's a lot of practice that has to happen before this becomes a fluid motion, but it will eventually click. And even myself, I see that I use these methods much more now than I ever did in the past because I wasn't taught these. And so I myself am continuing to get quicker at math using these methods. All right, let's jump back over here where we were looking at our unit form. So it just goes into that a little bit deeper into, we really want to think about these numbers as their units, like 7 tenths, 7 hundreds, 7 tens, 7 ones, things like that, no matter what you're using them for. Then we come to the next section of algorithms, which, speaking of algorithms, you know what? YouTube loves it when you hit that subscribe button and you give me that thumbs up. So if you haven't done that already, please help those algorithms. But you know what? In this book, algorithms isn't talking about that. It's actually talking about the repeated steps used to solve addition, subtraction, and multiplication. Has nothing to do with social media or the internet. It is actually just how we are going to solve. So looking at the algorithms for addition, these are all just showing you the operations that we're going to use and how important they feel that it is that we use the actual words. So we say addend and sum, which is also part and whole. Here's those little chip models again, which right here you can see all these chip models, which I'm sure we had these a little bit within Singapore math, but it wasn't enough that it clicked with me. But I love how visual this is and how easy it is to like really physically show the problem. So this is something that I will definitely be utilizing a little bit more because again, we can subsidize. Remember, that's the initial seeing. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to count because this is broken up into 5 and 2. I know right away I have 700s there. And so these visuals help that we don't have to count. We don't have to think about it. We just see it really, really quickly. And so we can see that they continue to use these chip models throughout there. How many of us have felt this before? I know I have definitely been there before. Here are the algorithms for subtraction, different ways that that is used. It'll do the same thing with multiplication and division. And then let's go ahead and go to page 107, which is another help your learner. So this is a help your learner with the algorithm section, and it gives you little ideas of how to break down some division. So here you have 52 cards. I want to deal them out to 4 players. You are physically showing them how we are dividing this to get the algorithm, and so they can, see that problem all together. I wanted to highlight this really quick because I thought this was a really, really interesting way to do division where you didn't have to continue it. It shows you step by step how she mentally calculates all of these things. Again, using that place value, understanding what you're actually working with right there, and then coming to the answer without very, very little writing and a whole lot of mental math. So That was a super cool section that I wanted to highlight there. All right, now we come to story problems. Oh yes, we have lots and lots of word problems and challenging word problems now. And so this goes through working through so many of these problems, whether it be addition and subtraction, multiplication, division, or we even go to fraction. There are different things that we want to use when we are working with story problems. And some of those are bar models. Bar models can also be called tape diagrams. So you may have heard a bar model or a tape diagram. Those two are in essence the same. Bar models, it shows you how, again, these are examples for how we have the problem. We're going to think about how it works. We're going to model it, and then we're going to answer it. And it shows you for each grade how we would use those. Another help your learner section. And then if we go to page 127, when we go to page 127, it talks about how story problems are among the most challenging for students and that it's really, really important that we use bar models. Bar models is something that she fought so hard during that time of learning bar models. She did not want to use them. She did not see the value in them. She did not like them one bit. But it says right here that teaching addition and subtraction story problems paired with bar models is a path to success. And it says that eventually they will come across a difficult problem and need the skill. And that is what has happened. As we have been in 4th grade, she appreciates bar models and she uses them willingly all the time. If you happen to have a student that is really, really fighting the bar model, I would ask that you just persevere through it because it has really come to be a lifesaver as we've continued to get into these bigger multiplication and division story problems, as we even worked with our fraction story problems. These have really, really been effective in doing that. Our next section is 2 interpretations of divisions. And so here we have fractions and decimals where we are working with dividing. It shows you different ways. So where we are sharing something, for instance, we have 12 crackers and we want to share them with 3 children. This is usually the way that we were taught, and we weren't really taught about the grouping division, where we have 12 crackers that we need to put 3 crackers in each bag. How many bags did we need? So there is a difference here, and it talks about how it's really important for our student to know the difference between sharing division and grouping division. And it teaches you all of this, and then it gives you a quiz yourself so that you also can understand the difference between sharing and grouping, and that way you can help build that bar model quicker once you understand what you're doing. Moving on to fractions. I know fractions can be really, really difficult for some, but I feel the method that they teach, especially in the Singapore math world, I don't have any, knowledge of the other ones because I haven't personally used them, but fractions really were not a huge hiccup for us because of the base and the foundation that was built with understanding the numbers, using those manipulatives. We spent a lot of time on fractions with the use of manipulatives, and that extra time that we spent on manipulatives, I think, helped us through the rest. Use them. You have all of these regional models, which is really just either a bar model, an area model, or a circle model. So all 3 of these are regional models, and they help to show how this problem is. So right here, this is showing us a 1, right? Right here, this is showing us 2/3. The 1 is broken into 3 different sections, and 2 are highlighted. It also talks about how in this section, she is referring to, she's not dividing these parts, she's partitioning them off. And so there are things in here as a teacher that you use the verbiage, which makes a lot more sense, because a lot of times we're not actually dividing the fraction, we are partitioning it off. And so it does give us a key there to use those words to make things make more sense. And there was that section right here, notes from the dream team about using that partition. All right, here it continues to show you how the many different ways, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, how we use fractions. There's a really, really large chunk on fractions in this book. And we end with the glossary, which I already showed you. So again, this is extremely well done. It is just really, really nice for those that have a student coming home and you just don't know how to teach them, or if you yourself, maybe your math curriculum isn't quite giving you all the information that you need to be able to show them a different way. That's another huge thing with this process, is that it shows you multiple ways to get the answer. There's not really a wrong way. They show you different methods, and use whichever method works the best in really building those mental math skills. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, put them down below. I definitely recommend this. I will be recommending this to many friends that I know that are having that math struggle, and I hope that you can find some value in this too. So thank you for spending some time with me. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.